The King's Magic Drum. Ephraim Duke was an ancient king of Calabar. He despised war and wanted peace to reign all the time. He had a magic drum, and whenever this drum was beaten, it would provide lots of food and drinks for everyone around it. He used this to maintain peace. Whenever a country would declare war against him and his kingdom, he would call all of their leaders and fighters together. He would then beat the drum, and lots of food and drinks would be available to everyone. So instead of fighting, to the surprise of everyone, the tables would be filled with different sorts of food, such as fish, fufu, palm oil shop, soup, cooked yams, and okras. Plenty of palm wine for everybody. This act will make his enemies so happy because at that time, food was scarce. They would stuff their faces with food and leave the kingdom in a happy and contented state of mind. No one knew the downside of his owning the drum. The rule was that if the owner of the drum walked over any stick on the road or stepped over a fallen tree, all the food would immediately go bad, and 300 Igbo men would appear with sticks and whips and beat the owner of the drum and all the guests very severely. The king never told anyone about this drawback. Everyone believed he would possess the drum forever. Ephraim Duke was a rich man with lots of land, farmers, possessions, and wives. He had a total of 50 wives and many children. Strangely, the women lived together peacefully without any arguments, and they were very good mothers to their children. The king was very happy with all of them because he rarely got any complaints. The king was in the habit of inviting his subjects to a great feast every few months. Even the wild animals were invited. Animals like elephants, hippopotami, leopards, bush cows, and antelopes used to come because at that time all the animals and men were very good friends, and when they were together they didn't kill each other. Every inhabitant of the kingdom was envious of the king's drum and wanted it, but the king, knowing its worth, never parted with it. One morning, one of the king's wives, poor Eden, took her daughter to the spring to have her bath to wash away the sores that covered her body. While she was watching her daughter, the tortoise was up on a palm tree cutting palm fruits that he would use and feed his family for the day. Some of the palm fruits fell to the floor, and the tortoise decided that when he was done cutting the palm fruits, he would go down and pick the ones that fell. The queen's daughter kept crying and begging her mother for the palm fruits that kept falling to the ground. The queen, the poor Eden, who had gotten tired of her daughter's screams and cries, picked some of the palm fruits and gave them to her daughter to eat. While she was eating, Tortoise came down from the palm tree. He greeted the queen and noticed the fibers of the palm fruit on the sides of the queen's daughter's mouth. Tortoise immediately took offense and made up a mischievous plan in his mind to use his situation to his advantage. "My queen," he said, "this is wickedness. I have very little to eat, and you and your household have more than enough. And now you have gone and picked the only food that my family and I will survive on and given it to your daughter. I will ensure that the king and the entire villagers know about how you stole my food from me," he threatened. The queen knew how bad the situation would look because stealing was a huge offense in the kingdom. "I saw your palm fruits lying on the ground and I thought they had fallen on their own, so I picked some and gave them to my daughter. I did not steal it. Why would I when my husband is a very rich man? If you have any complaints to make, I will take you to him myself," the queen said in her defense. Tortoise then followed the queen to meet the king. Immediately, Tortoise got there, told the king everything that had happened. When he was done laying his complaints, the king offered him food, slaves, properties, everything good. But to his surprise, Tortoise kept saying no to every one of them. Finally, he asked, "So what then do you want? Go on and ask for anything." Tortoise immediately pointed to the drum and said that he didn't want anything else but that. The king didn't hesitate. He gave the drum to Tortoise, but he didn't tell him about the drawback that came with owning the drum, which was that if the owner should step over a stick or a fallen tree, hundreds of Igbo men would come out and beat him. Tortoise skipped back home, so happy that he now owned the drum. "I am now a rich man," he said immediately after he got home to his wife. "Whenever I want food, all I have to do is beat this drum, and lots of food and drink would come my way. I don't ever have to work again." His wife was very happy, and she rejoiced with him. Immediately, his wife and children asked for food as they were all very hungry, and he started beating the drum to show off his newfound wealth. And immediately, lots of food and drinks appeared. The family ate to their fill, and they all slept very happily that night. He did this continuously for a week, and his children and his wife got very fat because they were eating good food and the food was in excess. He wanted to show off his wealth, so he invited the entire community to a feast in his house. Many people who saw the invitation laughed as they could not believe that Tortoise, who was very poor, could suddenly acquire so much wealth, so they didn't go for the feast. Turnout for the feast was not as Tortoise expected, but the king and his wives were in attendance, so Tortoise beat the drum and lots of food appeared immediately. The people that came ate to their fill and they left happily. When they returned, they told the other villagers how grand the event was and how much they ate. Everyone who didn't attend the feast was sad and promised themselves that they would attend the next feast that Tortoise hosted. Tortoise got very pompous with his newfound wealth and began over-drinking every night. One night, he was returning home from drinking. He didn't see the stick in front of him and he stepped over it. When he got back home, his wife met him. The woman told him that she was very hungry and that Tortoise should make food available for her and her children. Immediately, Tortoise started beating the drum. Hundreds of women came out and severely flogged him and his wife. After the beating, Tortoise got very angry and said, "So, I called the entire village for a feast, and when they came, these Igbo men did not appear to beat them. When I and my family were hungry, I once again beat the drum. Hundreds of Igbo men came out and beat my family and me. Well, I must ensure that everyone in this village gets the same treatment." With that thought in mind, Tortoise invited the entire village for a feast and everyone came. No one wanted to miss a good meal as before. Fortunately, the king and his wives were not in attendance. Once everyone was in the hall, Tortoise locked the door and beat the drum. Again, hundreds of Igbo men came out and beat everyone. The beating lasted 1 hour and no one could run out because the door was locked. Tortoise and his family had gone to a room to hide while the villagers were being tortured. When Tortoise was tired, he unlocked the door and everyone ran out. Then he beat the drum and the Igbo men disappeared. Next day, Tortoise carried the drum back to the king and told him that he was not satisfied with the drum and he would want to exchange it for something with the same value. He told the king that he could accept slaves, food, and properties. The king refused to give him what he requested, but out of pity, he decided to help Tortoise and his family. He knew that because Tortoise had the drum, he hadn't worked for a while. Tortoise has gotten very lazy. The king provided him with a magic food tree that would make him food if he kept a specific condition. The condition was that he was not to ask the tree for food more than once a day. All he was to do was get enough fufu and soup that would last his entire family for the day, and then the next day he would go back and ask again. Tortoise thanked the king and left with the magic tree. When he got home, he told his wife everything, and they got enough food for the day. While they were eating, one of his children asked, Tell me where you got food because you know the drum is no longer working. Tortoise refused to answer, and the boy still insisted. Tortoise didn't tell his son because he was scared that if he told him about the tree, go back and ask the tree for food for the second time in a day and ruin his juju. But his son was determined. He, however, couldn't succeed because his father was extremely careful to not be followed when going out, and he always went alone. Soon the son hatched a plan. He took a calabash and placed ash in it. He then turned the calabash around and put the calabash in a bag that his father always used when he went out. He made a small hole in the bag to allow the ash to fall as his father was walking. The next morning, his father left to get food for the day. As he was walking, the ash fell to the ground, leaving a trail, and his son followed the trail, ensuring that his father did not notice him. Tortoise finally got to the tree, and his son watched as he got the supply for the day. When his father returned home, he went back home as well, and the family had a good meal. The next day, after Tortoise had gotten the supply for the day, his son went back to the tree and got another, thereby breaking the juju. The following day after that, Tortoise went to the fufu tree to get more food, but when he got there, he couldn't see the tree anymore. What stood in the place of the tree was a large density of trees. There was nothing to be seen but a dense mass of prickly tai-tai palm. Tortoise immediately knew that the juju was broken. He went back home and called his family to ask which one of them did such an evil thing. No one admitted to it, and with a broken heart, Tortoise took his family to the prickly tai-tai palm and said, "My dear wife and children, I have done all I can for you, but you have broken my juju. You must therefore, for the future, live on the tai-tai palm." So they made their home underneath the prickly tree, and from that day, you will always find tortoise living under the prickly tai-tai palm, as they have nowhere else to go for food.